I think the medical system is a good feature in theory. However, it is currently so watered down it has no relevance to gameplay. And I think it's partially because the devs are being too careful to make a feature that really bites the player if he does ignore it. I would also like to say that the devs tweaked and improved some of the issues in the last 12 months. However, there's still room for improvement. First, I would like to gather statements by the devs on what they intend to do with the medical system. Then I would like to show you how it is currently defective. Because virtually any goal set by the devs, the system fails to reach. First, let's hear what the devs say about the system.
Next week is entirely about healing, and the week after that is entirely about inventory. That is how big and important these features are to life in the persistent universe for my money. And this is these are the biggest changes to life in the PU since Alpha 3.0 came out. So 3.15 is a big patch.
The function is to mask symptoms, and those symptoms are masked for a specific duration. And the duration is based on the dosage that you apply, and also the method of applying them. So we have the med pens, we've got the med gun, the multi-tool healing attachment.
Now I'd like to show you the official, I would say, gameplay documentation of how the medical system is supposed to work and what features are emphasized in the text. Okay, here, join us as we dive deep into each of these new features in hope you'll be properly equipped to face this update, which significantly ups the stakes of surviving in the verse. And here, before we jump into the details of how and where to heal, here are looks at the 3 tools currently available to a budding medical professional, all able to be purchased at any hospital or clinic. Then the game talks about 3 different types of tools, the weakest one being medical pens, then the multi-tool, and then the Q-Life medical tool. The Para multi-tool can be equipped with the Lifeguard medical attachment in order to be used as a life-saving device. More precise and effective than a med pen, this has the added benefit of healing from a short distance. This attachment is limited to administering Hamozal. Let's start with the multi-tool. The multi-tool as a medical item diminishes the profession because of the very nature of the tool. If carrying capacity is limited, being able to switch out the ammo on a supposed industrial tool to heal means that carrying capacity as a gameplay feature is diminished. Imagine in real life, a medic in an ambulance not carrying specialized medical gear, and instead carrying a toolbox for fixing cars, and he just has to swap out an attachment. Unifying gameplay into multi-tools does the opposite of allowing specialization, because the difficult choice of what to carry being reduced to a point where it's not relevant. On the screen you can see an example. On the left is the volume requirement of a med gun, loaded with a full stick, and on the right is a volume requirement of a multi-tool and 5 sticks. The advantage of using a med gun is only saving 500 milli-SCU. The supposed disadvantage of the multi-tool med attachment is that it can only use Hamozal. However, it carries 50% more ammo than the med gun, and the med sticks each carry enough drugs for 5 to 15 minutes of duration, depending on the stick. So, would you see saving a 16th of carrying capacity on a light armor as a reason to specialize into using a med gun over a multi-tool? Also consider the other advantage of the multi-tool. It can be swapped into a tool for an entirely different profession by swapping an attachment that only weighs 340 milli-SCU. This does not allow for specialization. Even if someone intentionally wanted to remove specialization from the profession, they would likely not find a way to do it more effectively. And I'm not saying the devs are doing this intentionally. It appears to be an oversight. Now let's examine if the medical system really does change the game in amazing ways, as advertised by the devs. In the first video I will show you how to use the med gun to save my character from near death with 6% HP left. The entire procedure will only take 5 seconds. You just have to press 4, draw the med gun, then press B to aim at my arm, then hold left mouse. All of this while having approximately 3 to 5 seconds to react before it reaches 0. That makes using first aid less steep than drawing a rifle and shooting at a target, because then I would have to aim the gun at what I want to shoot. I'm going to show a brief demonstration of how the medical system works in Escape from Tarkov. Okay, I'm going to jump off from this railing, which should be about, looks like 6 meters from here. Okay. So we have a fractured left leg and the right leg. And we lost some HP. Sometimes you get the bleeding wound, but in this case it didn't happen. So the first decision I have to make, is there any bleeding wounds, light or heavy bleeding? For that I got bandages and these tourniquet thingies. That's the first decision I have to make. Not required to fix the bleeding. Second decision is to get the fracture out of the way. Then I use splints on one leg. Leg. Now I can fill up the rest of the hit points. Now let's examine the differences. In EFT, I have to make a decision before going into raid on what medical items to bring. Then if an injury happens, I have to use the right item at the right time, depending on the situation. In Star Citizen, I only have to bring a med gun or a medical multi-tool and use it. And if there is a more complex injury, I only have to press auto. Imagine in EFT the game unifying all medical items into one, and you only have a switch that can be set to auto. Would that feel engaging? How can it be engaging in Star Citizen? Holding left mouse for 5 seconds, is that really a big feature, as the dev said? Can you as a player imagine making it even shallower than it is now? The medgun dumbed down the gameplay so hard that it is hard to find a way to make it simpler. If there was only med sticks, then players would at least have to make a conscious choice on using the right item. Can you see the pattern? They create a solid system, then they add a feature to that paves over most of it. And notice it's the multi-tool doing most of the damage. Now I'd like to examine Resurgera. That drug shouldn't exist in the game, as it diminishes the already low relevance of the medical system even more. Its basic effect is to increase the rate at which BDL is pumped out of the blood. Without Resurgera, 1% BDL is removed per minute. With Resurgera, it is 1% BDL per 23 seconds, which means it accelerates the rate to 2.6 times faster. This doesn't sound bad if you inject it and you get BDL reduced faster. It surely must have some disadvantage of using it too much. However, there are no negatives to using Resurgera all the time. You can inject it via the med gun. The gun allows to put up to 1 hour worth of Resurgera into your blood. And it appears they had to code in this artificial limit where the med gun just won't inject anymore if the timer is at 1 hour. Because it has no BDL level and therefore no limit. Which also indicates that they added this late in developing the medical system, out of a good intention, however naive desire, to protect players from difficult gameplay choices. And it gets worse. You may think it would have a disadvantage of reducing the positive effect of another drug or shorten its duration. However, it won't. That is the worst part of it. If you inject the roxafen stick, it will give you 15 minutes of the drug and 18.70 BDL. Without Resurgera, that would cause the drug to be removed after 18.7 minutes. And the drug effects would be removed 3.7 minutes before. So there's a 3.7 minutes overhang of the BDL affecting the player without the drug being active. With Resurgera, the drug would be removed in 7 minutes, while the drug lasts for the full 15 minutes, giving you magical 8 minutes of drug for free without the balancing effect of BDL. That means a player can walk around permanently jacked on Resurgera. Perhaps at least the cost of doing that would make it hard to always use Resurgera. Unfortunately, it won't. Now for the next section of the video, the cost of medical items. A full 1 hour dose of Resurgera costs 66% of the medgun ammo, which is 132 ammo out of 200. 27 seconds of Resurgera therefore cost 1 ammo. A full magazine costs 60 credits, which means 1 ammo costs 0.3 credits, which means 27 seconds of Resurgera costs 0.3 credits. And finally, that means that 1 hour of Resurgera costs 39.6 credits. If you do a box mission for 4,000 credits, then you have enough money for 100 hours of Resurgera if you play 1 hour per day. You have Resurgera for 100 days. That means BDL as a gameplay factor is virtually gone, because you can put more drugs into your body than you will ever need per hour without getting near negative effects of BDL. Let's examine Roxafen. It masks the effects of heavier injuries that would prevent a player from standing or holding objects. The expressed idea of the devs, as shown in the clip earlier in this video, was to mask the effect so that a player can get into hospital to fix it. That intent implies two things. First, that the masking should be limited in how long it can be used, so that the pressure to get to the hospital is high. Second, that it would come at a cost, because being able to stand after suffering a heavy injury is a big deal. Because if it was not, then the heavy injury would not be a heavy injury. Unfortunately, the low cost of medical items diminishes both. One Roxafen stick costs 100 credits, provides 15 minutes of the drug and leaves 18.7 BDL. Now consider, is there any place in all of Stanton remote enough to require more than 15 minutes to get there? There will always be a hospital, clinic, or a player-owned ship with medical gear within 15 minutes of time. Now some players may pose a counter-argument about how Stanton is a small system and how it will be different in Pyro. Okay, then let's assume it would take 1 hour to get to a hospital in Pyro. That would cost the player 4 Roxafen sticks. Would be 1 full hour of the drug, and the BDL would never reach critical levels if the sticks are taken every 15 minutes, as there's only 3.7 minute overhang of BDL time. So if you play 1 hour per day and refuse to fix the injury in a hospital, then you could keep masking the injury for the game session with 4 Roxafen sticks. The base argument is, if a medical item is too cheap, it diminishes the gameplay purpose of the item. So how much should medical items cost? Easy, just adjust the cost. However, to what level? It should be increased to a point where, and this brings us back to the beginning of the video, the medical system has the advertised impact on the gameplay. Let's start with Hemozal. A Hemozal stick heals 42 HP. Costs 100 credits. Hemozal for a medgun costs 56 credits to heal 100 HP. Is the cost high enough to make medical gameplay impactful? I would say it would not. To provide evidence, I will now compare the medical cost of Star Citizen to EFT. In the video clip shown earlier, the cost of healing was 100 HP healed costs 6,600 rubles, which is approximately 20% of total health. So healing from 0 to 435 HP costs 28,710 rubles. Fixing a broken leg costs 1 splint, which costs 4,200 rubles. Bleeding would cost between 3,200 and 4,200 per bleeding. Painkillers would last for 80 seconds at a cost of 2,125. So to collect it all, getting a player from limping and bleeding with 1 fractured leg would cost 35,035 rubles. You may wonder, why am I using EFT for comparison? It has a different in-game currency and a different economy. How would the two games be comparable? The one common variable would be purchasing power. What a player can get for 35,035 rubles in EFT will be able to get a full-sized AK-74 rifle in new condition. What is a comparable weapon in Star Citizen? I would consider the Bearing P4 rifle an equivalent weapon. It costs approximately 3,500 credits. So the conversion would be 10% of the EFT price, which means if we want to approximate the medical item cost to EFT, 435 HP in EFT is the same as 100 HP in Star Citizen. So 28,170 rubles is 2,817 rubles, the credits. Which means the cost of healing 100 HP should be 2,817 credits instead of the 56 credits we calculated earlier, which would mean medical items are 50 times underpriced. So there's the fix. Multiply the price of all medical drugs by 50. For medical devices, the conversion rate should be multiplied by 4, because the medgun already costs 1,310 credits, which is more than 3 times lower than that of an assault rifle. Why 4 times? Because highly specialized medical equipment that can heal and mask injuries should cost more than an assault rifle. In conflict zones, medical equipment is more valuable than assault rifles, because assault rifles are very durable items and they're very common. The second reason is that the cost of the medical items should be brought to a point where the player has to make a decision similar to this. Imagine you are a player doing package delivery without expecting combat or dangerous terrain, where you can fall from great heights. Then the cost of medical items should be so prohibitive that the choice between carrying a full medical setup or the bare minimum should be a hard choice. And I think the devs can see whether this is a thing in the metrics of player inventories. If every player always carries around a full set of medical items for any possibility, then there's no medical profession, because then CIG blurred the line between a well-equipped ambulance that can keep a heavily injured person alive and the first aid kit most people have in their car trunk. Summary. Games should reward the more complex to use item with more benefits. However, this is currently backwards. The loadout that requires the most thinking is carrying various sticks. Resurgera should be removed from the game, as it can more than half the BDL as a balancing feature. Or it should be changed so it becomes a heavy debuff, like increased thirst or hunger. Medical drugs, not devices, should cost 50 times more. Being a medic should be about carrying highly specialized, fragile, and expensive gear that is too expensive to be carried by everyone all the time. If a player is a walking pharmacy with enough medical ammo to heal himself several times over, then there won't ever be a medical profession.